talking about this new services economy, this digital economy. How is it actually manifesting itself in different vertical industries? Then we're going to talk about partnering in this new digital economy, in the new services economy. What are some of the best practices? What are some things to avoid? How do you partner with one another to get customers the services that they're looking for? So let's start. I'll introduce Kieran Hines, Head of Industries for Ovum, to provide the industry perspective. Kieran.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon to all of you. Hope you're having a good day so far at Digital Futures, and I do hope you're staying for the drinks afterwards. I'm told it's going to be a very nice affair indeed. My name is Kieran Hines. I'm the Head of Industries within Ovum's IT group, and the theme for this session is understanding service provider approaches to industries. And so one of the first things I wanted to do was just speak a little bit about what we mean by industries at Ovum and what the team I'm very proud and privileged to lead does on a day-to-day basis. And fundamentally, the way that we support our clients is very much by speaking the language of their industry. So each of my groups and the analysts that work in our team is focused on understanding the pain points and the industry challenges of all of our clients. And that very much is the beginning of all of our interactions. So where we look to advise our customers around their IT strategy and what they should do to address their challenges, it always starts from the same point, which is the business issue and the priority. And that then translates into clearly the need for technology and services to deliver against those requirements. And that, of course, leads to that decision to buy. And so just to give you an example of the kinds of challenges we help our customers with, this is highlights from our research agenda for this year. It's a shameless plug for the research. But a lot of the things we're talking to our customers about will include things like security, identity, privacy, challenges around that, of course, data as a strategic resource, navigating business disruption, a very popular one at the moment, of course. And of course, the one you can never shake off is delivering an exceptional customer experience. That, of course, is and has been central to the IT strategies and priorities of a lot of our clients for some time now. And this helps illustrate that point. So each year we do a very big listening exercise. We call it our ICT Enterprise Insights Survey, which we speak to, in this case, 4,800 enterprise CIOs and IT directors to understand exactly the challenges they're facing in the year ahead and how their IT plans, of course, line up to that. And so here we've asked our panel how they feel they are progressing against a number of different strategic objectives. Two key things to take away from this. The first is that 85% of the enterprises we spoke to believe they have more work to do in their progress towards digital transformation, so happy days. Lots of projects and business to be done. The other key takeaway here, and something which has really become a big area of shift over the last 2 or 3 years certainly, is the degree to which focus on the customer experience has come very much to the top of that list. And so even looking at this from 2 years ago, you would see security, privacy and so on being very much the single biggest area of focus. You know, here obviously measuring progress against transformation in terms of prioritization. It now very much is all geared around delivering on customer requirements. No surprises, I'm sure, but certainly something worth demonstrating. And this very much reflects the changing nature of disruption in all the industries that we follow. Certainly, historically, you would see in most industries waves of disruption would occur fairly large intervals apart, so years, decades in many cases. And often change occurred at a pace at which incumbents were able to both adapt and evolve to those shifting requirements. What we see now is moving towards a shift in that pattern, towards waves of disruption and change, which are both more frequent, so that the time period compressing, but also driving greater volatility in industries and markets as a result. Factors driving this, of course, very important. The first is advancements in technology, particularly around cloud, big data, analytics, artificial intelligence, but also the degree to which access to these has become relatively democratized. So your commercial models around all of those areas, availability of open source and so on, mean that the reach of those technologies is far greater, particularly to enterprises down sort of tiers 4 and below, but also, of course, new entrants, challenges and so on. At the same time, of course, we also see an end user, a consumer or B2B customer base, which again places ever greater demands on the quality of service they receive from their providers, and of course mobility has been a very, very important factor in that. I mean, I recognise this is one of those graphics that people hate analysts for producing, but I think nevertheless, while somewhat contrived in its nature, it does sort of map onto a future view, future states for industries which we see playing out over the next 5 to 10 years. And what's underneath this actually is the shift towards digital services. And so really there are a couple of states or a couple of buckets that we see driving out a lot of these shifts. And the biggest trend overall is move from digitization to digitalization. So one small step for linguistics, but one giant leap for industries. What we're talking about here, of course, is at the moment, thinking 2 slides back to where I showed you our CIO panel and their views around their own digital transformation. I think very much they were capturing a view on this left-hand side, which is broadly around digitization. So turning existing processes, be they manual or sort of human level in many cases, and turning those into ones and zeros. And so in this process of digitization, very much characterized, certainly in terms of the service level, it's around existing products and services being delivered in a digital way. End user interactions sort of move to digital touch points, and so retail banking, a very good example of this, of course. So the advent of online and mobile banking, one of the biggest impacts that had in the early days was to migrate traffic for very simple transactions away from the branch and contact center onto mobile. So balance inquiry being a very common example there. And of course, at the enterprise end, very much characterized by relatively tactical and sort of front-facing innovation. So again, looking at the banking example, most retail banks have invested heavily in their front ends, but far less priority has been given in most cases to the levels beneath. Now, so where we're moving to and where we think about this concept of transformation very much is around digitalization. So the sense where the ability to move forward and deliver that transformation is around a combination of new digital-led products, services and business models. So the creation of something new, potentially, of course, involving convergence at the industry level. From the end user standpoint, fully integrated experience across all touch points. And of course, at the enterprise end, digital services on top of a digital core. And so this is what we mean when we talk about transformation, and to a degree, this is where all the industries that we cover within Ovum, my group, are sort of looking at these trends. But it's important to highlight that the pace of change, of course, and the ultimate endpoint, or certainly the trajectory of change, is different in different industries. And so what you can see here, so I know our MD, Anil Rakati, at the beginning of the day talked about our 2025 project. And so we did the same piece of work, of course, in our industries group to look to understand which the industries are which will experience the most rapid change, the most fundamental shift over a sort of 10-year time frame. Don't know why it's always 10 years, but it sort of works, doesn't it? And the essence here, of course, being where we define transformation is where we're saying that in 2025, the industries that experience the biggest change will be completely revolutionized, and the services they deliver, the manner of delivery, the commercial models and so on will be completely transformed over that timescale. And really we identified 3 factors that sit behind this. And the first, on the y-axis, of course, ICT disruption, so the degree to which advanced technology will drive change in the way in which, or in the nature of services, but also how they are delivered. And of course, On the bottom there, a sense of business disruption, so the degree to which these changes also open doors to new entrants, new partnerships, new sets of stakeholders in the marketplace. And the third dimension really is the degree to which services or products and services are or can be turned into entirely digital products and propositions. And so as a result of that, the industries we feel will have or see the most disruption over the coming 9 years now will be payments, insurance, telecoms, and the media segments. And of course, I don't suppose we get many prizes for that given what's happening in each of those industries at the moment, but those all fit those criteria in terms of the influence of technology, the role or the opportunity for new entrants, and of course, the degree to which products and services are already digital in their nature. The second group there, which we also expect to see significant change, but perhaps at a slightly lower rates relatively, all characterised by having a degree of sort of either personal service or human interaction in the process, which sort of will reduce the impact that complete digitalisation may have. I think, so we've looked forward. It's important to obviously remember where we are today and think, well, one of the key takeaways I think for, that I would like to get across is that each industry, of course, has its own particular dynamics, starts from a different point, facing different challenges, and of course each will develop along a different sort of direction when it comes to digital transformation. And so some examples here, if we look at what's happening in the government space, and so we're moving, of course, from the very first e-government initiative, so again, sort of digitising existing processes and the delivery of citizen services. In the UK, we've been through a few waves of this already, and I think we are already moving to a phase. Certainly there is ambition and will to move towards a concept of fully digital government, unlocking some of the benefits that government departments and agencies can really deliver from greater access and availability to their own data, but also those across citizen and business interactions with government across the nation to improve both local and, of course, national decision making. In the insurance industry, traditionally one of the more conservative industries, even slower to act than retail banking, which is really saying something. The insurance industry, particularly on the retail side, is facing up to several years of turmoil and change due to the impact of IoT and connected devices. So taking motor insurance, classic case in point, so the way in which motor insurance risk is underwritten, very much based around factors to do with where you live, how much you intend to drive the car, the kind of car itself, as well as your previous claims history. Flip that around, of course, and you take that annual premium model. If you're able as an insurer to understand more or less in real time how the customer is driving the car, how often, time of day, how quickly perhaps, suddenly your ability to price for that risk changes completely, as well as the way in which you monetize that service. So you move from an annual premium perhaps to maybe charging for insurance on a utility type model. So you pay end of the month for how you drove this month. And so huge impacts on both the nature of insurers, but also the future development of that industry. In the education space, so we've already seen huge developments in the student experience through the application of CRM technology and so on. And again, I think here another case in which we've barely begun to see the surface scratched in terms of the scope for digital learning and other kind of e-learning services to both drive the change in the way in which students and people are educated, but also, of course, the economic and commercial models around how that works from an institution perspective. And the fourth thing I wanted to touch on was retail banking. And so if you'll indulge me, we'll dig in here a little bit more detail. And so obviously, huge amount of hype and focus around the impact of fintech, startups, new entrants to the retail banking space. And despite a lot of this, and I think some of the hype certainly is very well founded, the actual impact on the industry in terms of the main participants has still been relatively limited. So in the UK, for example, despite the industry investing hugely in an account switching service, the number of consumers moving accounts, moving provider is still very, very low. Nevertheless, the industry is on its own transformation trajectory. And there are 4 things here which will be cornerstones of those changes. The first is back office agility. And so here we're talking particularly around the digitization digitalization even of core processes and so on. And here there'll be an important role for cloud technology particularly, but also artificial intelligence, especially around sort of process automation. And so we'll see a lot of changes and developments in that space. And of course, once you have that flexible and digital core platform as an organization, and this holds true, of course, for any industry, you then have the ability to deliver on top of that far more flexible and agile services than you ever could before. Looking at real-time insights, here this is very much around the ability of the bank to personalize its service to customers. So using all that lovely transaction data, your bank knows everything about you. You can understand, of course, how to package and properly price products or bundles of products to the specific needs and requirements of a customer, so that true sort of segments of one view. But also, of course, the ability to enhance the existing proposition, so with things like contextual messaging, communications, but also even projected balances, all things which banks are looking to roll into their service enhancement plans. Perhaps the most interesting area to focus on actually though is what's happening around open APIs. Don't know how many of you in the room are students of European payment regulation, but no hands going up. The second European Payment Services Directive has mandated that every bank with a footprint in the European Union, which includes the UK as of today, will be required to open up 2 APIs to regulated third parties. One to enable the passing of transaction information, so you can allow a third party to see your transaction history, potentially across multiple providers. And the other is for payment initiation, so you can give the right for a third party to initiate payment directly from your bank account. And this is due to become implemented by competent authorities within the European Union in January 2018. And so you step back for a minute and think about what that means for the role banks might play in a broader ecosystem. This is one of the ways in which there's a big debate in the industry right now around the degree to which this is a compliance need or indeed an entire paradigm shift in the way in which banking services are delivered. And of course, you can easily see scenarios in which banking services delivered via API can fit neatly into the reimagined, transformed customer journeys of a number of other different industries. So this can be the real trigger point for industry convergence and a whole new wave of end-user experiences in the future. And who'd have thought retail banks would lead it? And of course, where all this goes, and right back to the beginning, of course, is around enhancing the customer experience. And so in addition to all the above, of course, again, the recognition that having genuinely integrated channels, mobile-first approach, will be essential in delivering the services that customers want in the manner in which they want them, of course. So final thoughts. So I know a lot of what we talked about at the conference today has been around digital service providers, and I think one of the most interesting aspects around cloud and software as a service in particular is that for the IT vendor space, I think this also begins to change the nature in which we should see vendors, software vendors. So this chart here, this is taken from the same survey I showed you at the beginning of the presentation. And so what we're looking at here is the change in investment in cloud technology in this year on the previous year. And so as you can see, software as a service, 44% of enterprises are increasing their expenditure on SaaS as a means of software procurement. And of course, you see strong growth as well, of course, infrastructure and platform as a service. And so from the enterprise point of view, the shift towards cloud-first procurement strategies is driving equivalent change, of course, on the vendor side in terms of how they deliver their software, create their software. Most importantly, I think it shifts the game for vendors into a whole new way about how they focus their go-to-market. So moving from an annual license-based model, sell it, integrate it, move on, come back for renewal, into a model in which there is ongoing sales and client support, and the need to deliver on a continuous basis with a continuous revenue stream attached, of course, also means, in my opinion, software vendors also begin to enter this realm of being a form of digital service provider. Anyway, so final thoughts. So just wanted to end by talking through some of the lessons that we've learned from the conversations we have with our clients, particularly around how service providers have sort of failed when it comes to interacting with them. And so key lessons, it's all about positioning your services and solutions obviously at the needs of the industry, and so very much around selling solutions, not technology. I'm running out of time, so I'll skip over the smaller text. But so focus on solutions, not about technology. No one buys technology, they buy solutions to their problems. Find the balance between the industry focus and horizontal firepower, so delivering quick wins now, but also remembering the need to use that broader experience to deliver longer term value, and don't be afraid to challenge preconceptions, of course. And of course, thinking about your own go-to-market and those client relationships, invest in teams of people or research that demonstrates understanding of the needs of that industry. So learn the language of your industry. And the final points around insights. So data, of course, everyone's been talking about the importance of data. I think it's only now that we're beginning to really see and understand the true nature of what genuine insight can deliver to enterprises across all industries. And so, above all else, the way in which you deliver insights, both as part of the service delivery, but also as part of the wider service to your clients, will be increasingly important in the future. And that's me finished. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kieran.